Welcome to the AI for Equity podcast. You'll see I'm here by myself today, not with Leah co-hosting for a change. She's sunning herself on a beach somewhere, but not completely alone because, as you see, I'm lucky enough to be with Dr. Keshav Malhotra. I met him in India. Can you believe it? I was lucky enough to visit the hospital that he works in, and I found out so much about him. He inspired me, and I thought you, as guests, would love to know more. He definitely works at the space of AI for equity and can really bring it to life for us. So, welcome, Keshav. How are you today?
Me, I'm slightly jealous of Leah. I would
I
love to
know.
be on a beach.
She's very lucky. She's very lucky. So I want to jump straight in. You're fourth generation in reproductive
Yes.
medicine. Yeah, now working at the intersection of embryology, training, and AI. Tell me, tell me a bit about what that journey looks like from the inside.
Okay. Before I begin that, let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm Dr. Keshav Malhotra. Like you mentioned, I'm one of the fourth generation doctors within my family. I think medicine is something that's always been all around us since childhood, and that's something that the whole family has been really passionate about. Um, I am an embryologist. I am currently chairing the embryology wing of the Indian Society of Assisted Reproduction, also chairing the embryology SIG for the Asia Pacific Society of Assisted Reproduction. And I'm also part of an exclusive board of scientists called Alpha Scientists, which solely dedicate their uh, academic journeys to uplift embryology and science within our communities. So it's just a small introduction. Now, coming back to your question, I think this is something that I really find myself sitting with a lot, because from the inside, it's not a straight line for me. It's more like each generation has handed the next set of questions or unresolved questions to the next one. So my great grandfather actually started practice within India, and he was not a reproductive medicine specialist. So when my great grandparents took over, it was a completely different field for them, and they established themselves as OBGYNs. They got slight glimpses of reproductive medicine because hormones had come into picture. And then when my parents took over from them, they saw the full fertility and the IVF sector boom, from the birth of Louis Brown to the birth of the first Indian IVF baby, to the establishment of IVF clinics within India, and then the mushrooming of IVF clinics in India. And then when I joined this sector as an embryologist, I started when there were few embryologists who were qualified in the country. And then right now, I'm in a space where there is a huge digital transformation happening within our sector itself, and it's really, I find myself, it's an honor to actually observe this, because you're actually seeing a transition from one kind of practice to the other, and that's is really exciting for me.
Wow, what a legacy to know that generations before you have paved the way. And I guess that's maybe why you're involved in, not just the medicine itself, but you are also thinking about how you impact things for the future, how you create your lasting legacy also in the work that you're doing. So there's this long line will be carried on, which is really wonderful to consider. Yeah.
I don't know if AI takes over, then I don't know where that line goes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the thing though, because you're doing this great work, you don't, in a way, if you didn't have any children, it's fine because you've carried it on in different ways. Although, yeah, these decisions are completely up to you. So, yeah, this is and the time is moving so quickly right now, this digital transformation. So even though there've been, four generations, I wonder if right now is maybe the fastest pace that it's ever been, actually. It feels like what can happen in a week or a month or even a year is something that would have taken decades to happen previously. So there's something about the pace right now, isn't there?
I believe it truly is the fastest that it has ever been. And that makes me wonder how fast it'll be in the next decade, because I'm sure it's going to be even faster than what it is right now. And that's a scary thought for me, because
Right.
we as humans, especially when we talk about governance, we can only have a set pace. I mean, we can't really match the pace that technology has right now. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we have as far as AI in our field is concerned.
Absolutely. And I think it's in so many fields.
Yes.
But let's go back to your day to day. Walk us through a typical day in an IVF lab. Where is AI already present, whether patients know about it or not? I'm curious.
Okay, so for an embryologist, a typical day starts early because we have to enter the lab. We have to like basically prepare it for the whole day. So we are checking our incubators, we are checking our workstations, we are cleaning the laboratory. So it's generally before patients even start entering or doctors even start entering. And once that is done, we do our FERT checks, we do our embryo grading, we decide which embryos are ready for transfer, which need to be frozen. All of that happens early on in the day itself. And when I talk about AI coming into our stream, I think this is one critical area where I feel that AI is taking over our decision making. And I truly feel it's for the best of us, because all of these decisions are time bound. There would be instances where a FERT check has to happen at 16 hours post insemination, and that might be at 4 a.m. for an embryologist. So it's practically impossible. So using a time lapse system with an AI based algorithm can really transform the way that we practice IVF as such. Uh, on the clinical side, AI is also creeping up. We have, I would say, there are digital chatbots which record the patient's history. They can already predict like what the patient would require from the doctor, guide them to that doctor itself. There are AI systems which can manage stimulation in IVF. So the amount of drug that's required to be given to the patient, the whole protocol for 10 to 11 days that's prescribed to the patient. All of that can be done using AI systems. And again, even things like monitoring an ultrasound scan just to see follicular development or how the endometrium is developing. All of that can be read within 30 seconds using AI based systems, which are really changing the game for at least our country, where I would say access to a specialist uh, is not very easy. Um, and therefore, I truly feel that AI is already influencing a lot of things within our space. Your second question was whether patients know about it, and that's a very interesting question, and I'm glad that you're bringing it up, because in most clinics, patients don't really know about what kind of system is being utilized for them. An embryologist would just tell them that, all right, this is the best embryo that we have. And they would not know that it's the best embryo which was selected by an algorithm or
Mm,
which was selected using morphogenetic data. And they would not know what that data was trained upon or what was the patient population for that data. So I think that this is a big challenge.
mm.
I feel that an informed consent is something that should be taken, but here is where I think most clinics lack.
Right. Okay. So that's so interesting, isn't it? And you won't be the only field where you're using AI, and we don't really realize that that's helping to speed up a process or improve accuracy or access. But yes, that idea of it's something within me that probably I wouldn't look at. I wouldn't know, the cells in in my embryo, what's happening. And so it's something I might not be thinking about, but it's there, and it's in, it's it's the algorithm has looked at it, and people could have access to that. And
It
whether I'm happy with it is a
it's
question.
really important because most uh, of these algorithms are trained on European data sets or American data sets, and they're not trained on, I would say, Indian data sets. And you cannot generalize an Indian patient with a European population.
No.
They
Mm,
will not behave in the same manner, and
mm,
that's
mm,
well documented. So that's something that patients should be aware of. Clinicians should be aware of, because
yeah.
most of the times these tools are, I mean, marketed to the clinic. The clinician is also utilizing it as a marketing tool for getting more patients or changing the narrative of their clinic. Uh, and they also don't understand that maybe this tool is not fit for my
Mm,
population or my data
mm,
set.
mm, mm.
It's, I mean, it's difficult to actually make them aware that this is an important question that they should be thinking of.
Yes, and also how can you get the data set you need so that the more you use it, I guess you start building your Indian data set that you can then check and use, but you need to be using it to get there as well, I guess. Yeah. So you said, this is in a way giving access to people. They can't afford a specialist, and by engaging using the AI, it enables them to have more access. So
Yes.
so either what would you say has changed, or how equitable is it right now? Is it who gets to use IVF in India? Who gets to
Okay.
access? I'm curious.
I'll be honest here. IVF itself is not equitable. Especially, I think it's in our country, it's not equitable. In most countries from the global south, it still remains inaccessible.
Mm,
Um, and it's only countries where there is public funding and there's insurance coverage. It might be accessible, but then they also have challenges of the waiting list being so long that they're moving towards private clinics to do their cycles. Now, where I'll give you a little bit of background for my country. I think we have this extraordinary paradox in our country where some of the most technologically advanced labs exist in tier one and even now in tier two cities, which are operating with international standards. And then you have a vast population which is in tier three, which are rural areas where access is minimal, the infrastructure is limited, access to a trained embryologist is limited. And when you see this disparity, you feel that, I mean, it's definitely not equitable in our country. And there are other issues as well. So there is financial inequity because uh, IVF in India is something which is um, privately funded, or I mean, patient is paying out of pocket. There are no insurance companies that are providing um coverage for IVF services, and the government also is not really into it as of now. There is geographic inequity because tier one cities have a different infrastructure as compared to a tier three city. There is cultural inequity. I truly believe that there is a huge stigma in certain tier three cities, especially for women, and they face lots of challenges there. And then there's also a quality inequity because I would say, like, we have some embryologists or some clinicians which are at par with the world, but then there are also, like, the numbers are limited. Now, AI doesn't really solve all of this, but what it's doing is, like, let's say I need a radiologist to give me the sizes of the follicles so that I can, um, like, monitor or change my stimulation protocol. Now, the AI based system is a bridge for that for me. Similarly, for the endometrium, I need to decide whether this patient is ready for transfer. An AI based system is actually helping me decide, or without needing an expert opinion. In the embryology side of things, when, like, it's not a challenge for my clinic particularly because we are a smaller unit with, I would say, four embryologists. But when you look at a big corporate chain who have like hundreds of embryologists with them, offering consistent outcomes is a huge challenge for them. Like, how how do you make sure that those 100 embryologists do the same assessment of an embryo, select the same embryo for transfer all the time? It's practically impossible, and that's where AI comes into picture, and it really makes select these selection processes more consistent, so that the patient gets a more standardized treatment.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because there are so many variables with human beings. I don't sleep well if I didn't sleep well last night, had an argument with my partner, sat in traffic, although I might be an expert, my idea of what I see might be slightly skewed because of it. But there will be some really expert embryologists who've been around a really long time. And I'm curious what happens if they disagree with the algorithm? Yeah, what happens then if someone who says, I've worked in this field for 15 years and AI saying X, but I say Y?
Yeah.
Who wins?
Okay, I have two thoughts about this. The
Mhm.
first one is that once you have worked in the field for, let's say, n number of 10, 20, 40 years, I do feel that you become biased to your own judgment.
Okay.
That's one thought. I mean, I truly feel that this happens in our clinics, and your judgment is confounded by your own biases. But the other thought is that when an algorithm agrees with an embryologist, or even when it disagrees with the embryologist, I think that is the most valuable data set that we have. Because if we utilize that data to figure out why there is a disagreement happening, what the embryologist is seeing, which the AI is unable to see as of now, or what the AI is seeing, which the embryologist is unable to see right now, that is valuable information, and that should be fed into the machine learning software in order to improve the AI based systems. And I think this is where um, I feel there are some clinics that are doing this and they're collecting data on this, but not all of them. And this is the gold mine of data that I would really want if I'm developing an AI based software.
I think it's so important because it's very easy for us as human beings. In a way, it's fast, it's, slick. Let's just defer to the AI. That's a very easy thing for us to do. And I think some things could be missed. But if there is a difference, yeah, as you said, that's the most important data, because why do you think this and why does the AI think that? That might be the difference between perhaps understanding the Indian population versus not. It might be just some anomalies, because what we know about the algorithms is that they kind of go for the average, don't they? Generally, it's the amalgamation of data, and sometimes it's the rare cases that maybe AI doesn't notice because it's hasn't got that data to feed into it.
Yeah. And it also brings us closer to explainable AI, is what I truly believe. And I think that's where once AI is explainable, that's where the trust issues, which most of us feel with an AI based system, they'll vanish. Because right now we don't know why the AI is selecting an embryo. We really don't know what it's seeing, which we can't see. Once we get there, I think the like people will really start accepting AI systems more.
Mm. Yeah, and you think we can get there towards explainable AI?
Yeah, I truly believe, because there are
Yeah.
companies that are already doing it,
Yes.
and we are. I think in the next couple of years, I believe that we will have some solutions where at least some modalities of the selection process would be explained.
Mm, right. Okay. So you said right at the beginning, and we talked about this legacy and the four generations, about the bodies that you are working with and are part of, that are actually sort of moving things forward on AI governance. Do you think it's moving fast enough right now?
Okay, so I work with the Indian Society. I work with Aspire, and I mean I follow Eshrey a lot. And then there's Alpha Scientists, which is again a good body which comes up with these consensus statements for guiding the field to what should be done and what should not be done. And I truly have deep respect for all of these organizations. because they're doing work which is voluntary, which is absolutely important. But when I say this, I mean, I don't mean any disrespect for them, but it's not fast enough, because the technology is moving faster than any of these structures can actually follow. Whenever we are trying to formulate a guideline, um, we have a traditional consensus committee that's formed. They review all of the literature. They then deliberate for months between them whether they agree with certain statements or they disagree with certain statements. And it also boils down to certain words which are acceptable and not acceptable when you're framing a guideline. And in those months, the technology has already evolved. Like we were just speaking about, it's too fast right now itself. So I think that we need to shift from having a reactive approach to a more proactive or a prospective approach as far as forming these guidelines are concerned. I think it's not as difficult, because what we really need to say is that you need certain standards that need to be established regarding data transparency, training population, deployment of the AI, marketing like tools, all of that, and then also surveillance of the outcomes, which is something that needs a long term follow up. I think it's doable, but I know it's tough, and everyone's burdened by so much work that um, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to come up with these statements and guidelines.
Yeah, and as you were talking, actually, I started thinking, is it that we need to be fast, or do we need to slow AI down? You
Oh,
know,
no,
mm,
I don't know, because how do we slow AI down? We can only slow it down when we come up with a guideline for it. And if that takes too long, then we're already too late.
yeah, it's curious. I guess it is, if we can't think as quickly as AI can evolve. Yeah, I'm thinking, what do we do about that? Because it feels already, maybe we all really feel that we're running to catch up. And so yeah, there's something interesting for us to consider. But I'm glad you are in this space and you are influencing outcomes and you are thinking about standards. I mean, you are in India, you are in the global south. Do you feel that there are enough voices in the room globally from the global south that are thinking about this and speaking about this and influencing it?
Uh, I don't think there are enough voices. I It has been a real challenge for me to get into this room. I've really worked very hard to actually get into this particular space and this room of people who are making these guidelines. Uh, and I truly believe it's because the current infrastructure that we have globally does not really support it. Now, when you look at academic institutions and when you look at academic funding and research funding, um, it's more for, I would say, the Americas or Europe, and their budgets are like insane. When you come to the global south, India, Latin America, Southeast Asia, I mean, we truly cannot match their infrastructure right now or their funding for such projects. But I truly believe when you look at population as such, like who is going to be most affected by any technology that comes in this space, it is the global south, because that's where most of the population is. And therefore having representation from these countries is more important, because unless and until they understand what challenges we face, we would never be able to come up with a tool that is beneficial for the global population as such. And that's what I mean. They're starting to understand this. In every advisory board that I sit, this is the first thing that I bring forth, that you have to understand the challenges of low resource and mid resource countries, and then only come up with a statement. With Aspire, we've actually come up with a publication, um, which is standards for low and medium resource countries, which can be an excellent tool for guidance for any of those well-funded clinics and like protocol makers. So yeah, I mean they're open to it, but it'll still take some time to have everyone on board to come up with a true consensus document.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so important that you found your way, you made your way into the room. And something we, as AI for Equity, the podcast, really want to encourage people to do is make sure that they have their voice at the table, particularly if you are not from the group that the data typically comes from, because otherwise, we are not considered. And it's so interesting, isn't it? Countries like the UK, for example, having a voice at nearly all of these tables, and we're a tiny speck comparison to India. You're such a big country, so it's really important that your voice is there. So thank you. Thanks for being part of these committees, these organizations. Thanks for thinking forward. And on behalf of all of the countries in the global south, I think it's really, really key. And I really encourage everyone to be part of it. So, I've got a conversation because when we talk about AI, we're often talking about money, actually. People are thinking, the US is really thinking about how it can dominate and make money from AI. We are often thinking on this podcast about how we can create equity and fairness, which sometimes can be in contrast to making money. But there is a commercial reality when we're thinking about AI and AI tools. And I wonder about how clinicians can stay independent when sometimes tools come with a sales pitch. And I guess it's similar to doctors when doctors are sold medication, aren't they? And they come with a sales pitch too.
Yeah, I think the commercial pressures of IVF and the fertility sector are absolutely enormous. Um, it's a private pay market for most of the world, I would say. And clinics are so competitive. They're competing on success rates, they're competing on technology, they're competing on narratives for innovation. And when you have a company that's selling an AI system, it truly is selling you a marketing story because um, you when you're sitting on the director's chair, you have to think about how you're going to keep the business, sustain it, increase it. What are your competitors doing that you are not doing? How will you get an edge over your competitors? And it truly adds so much pressure. I think the only antidote is education. I think clinicians, embryologists, they all need to be aware about these tools. They have to look at the evidence that's behind the tool and it's not just the commercial aspects of it. And I think once we have that sort of an awareness, um, it would really change the way one would adopt the technology. As of now, when an AI company would approach a clinic, they are rarely talking about data sets. They are rarely talking about numbers, the number of patients that they have utilized, the number of images that they've analyzed. They only talk about, okay, this is a test that you can give to your patients for so and so money, so much money. We will charge you an X amount. This would be your profit. You will have this edge. And that's not correct. um, I feel that even having a more professional community based approach towards this might also change things because if as a community we accept these facts and if we accept that the fact that yes, this is a new tool that's coming in that might be beneficial for all of us and not just some of us, I think that thought process might also change the commercial aspect of it, because it would be then that a country or a community as a whole would truly analyze the platform, which then they can determine whether it is for the benefit of the patient or not. I think this sort of peer network is something which is very important for us. And I
Yeah.
think lastly, it's governance. I think unless and until you have a framework um, which guides you, And these governance documents come from societies, they come from organizations, they also come from the government of the country itself. um, I mean, unless and until we have these documents, we would not be able to have a check on the commercial aspects of the technology as such.
Yeah, such a good point though for any clinician listening. How are you making your decisions? Are you really interrogating where the data's coming from and thinking about who this benefits? Absolutely, you need to stay competitive, but there's more to consider than that. And yeah, and where's the patient voice? That's come through in our conversation too. So I know you have a training academy. Um, and I guess this is part of what we were just talking about, but how do you build the critical thinking needed to challenge AI's output through that academy?
A very interesting question. Okay, so I do have an academy. I train a lot of embryologists every year. Um, I think if I look at numbers, I've trained more than 300 embryologists so far, and they come from all over. So it's not just India. They're coming. A lot of embryologists are actually coming from Africa for training because access to training there is negligible. When I look at AI and when I look at whether that is going to influence training itself, I do feel that there are again two thoughts about it. One is that when an embryologist is being trained under the umbrella of an AI algorithm deciding things for them, I don't think that they would ever gain the critical thinking that's required to truly become an embryologist, because if you are so dependent on a system that's doing things for you, and this is happening world over. I see kids nowadays who are using ChatGPT or Claude, and they are answering their questions and they're writing their essays using it. And I truly wonder what's going to happen to our next generation when they are so heavily dependent on AI for their critical thinking. um, is the same with us, unless and until we train on these important tools that our previous generations have done, and they've done really well. I don't think we will ever be in a space where we can challenge AI or challenge a judgment that's made by AI. So I think that's where the academy comes into picture. I understand that these are needs of embryologists nowadays, and we make curriculums for them. We go from short training modules to 6 months, 1 year mentorships where they spend a year with us, uh, just working in the laboratory, learning like day to day. Um, and that's really, especially in Africa, some of the embryologists that I've trained have truly transformed their clinics, and they're really doing wonders for their patients. And I think I feel really proud that I'm part of that journey, and I've been able to, like, even in the smallest way possible, I've been able to contribute to that change.
Fantastic, fantastic. It's so great to hear. You're doing such good work. As you were talking, I was thinking a few things. I was thinking that maybe a little bit like driving. I was thinking two things. When we drive cars, if you're someone who drives a car, and a lot of people use satellite navigation. And I remember people saying, well, it's not good to use it because then you can't navigate and you can't, you can't map read. I think they're right. A lot of people won't be able to read a map now, but you still get where
I
you need.
can.
Yeah, you still
I
get
can't.
where you need. Yeah, you get where you need to go. You stop and ask someone for directions or whatever you had to do if your sat nav wasn't working. But we probably have lost a skill, but we've also got lots of other skills, and we get to where we want to go. I guess the other thing I was thinking, though, in many countries, I saw in the news it said that self-driving cars are coming to the UK as taxis towards the end of the year, potentially. And I thought, well, if everyone's going to have a self-driving car, do we need to still learn to drive? And as you were talking, I was thinking, well, what if it doesn't work? It's good to know that you can jump in if that's possible and that drive your car, or you know if something's going wrong, or you know if it's going down a one-way street when it shouldn't. And I think what you're saying is we need to understand so we can know whether things are right or wrong. And also, if it doesn't work, there are times right now when Claude has an outage or ChatGPT is not functioning. Does that mean everything stops? Or can we go back to our thinking and manual systems? So I think there are things for us to consider. Some things it doesn't matter if we don't know how to do anymore, but fundamentally, if we can't think for ourselves, then we really are just sort of saying, surrendering to say, you make all the decisions for me.
Yeah. I'm really worried that there will be a time where it'll be you have to watch this advertisement before the results are generated.
Gosh.
That would just be the worst. I mean, can you imagine like
Yeah.
generating a report from ChatGPT and you have to watch 3 minutes of advertisements and then you'd be able to generate that report. And I believe that's going to happen because
Yes.
like they will commercialize
Yeah.
someday or the other.
Mm.
What would you do then?
Oh, that would be a real nightmare. And yeah, you've got a really good point, actually. I think I even watched a movie like that once where it
I
was
think
constantly, they were making you watch adverts all of the time to
an
move
episode
forward
on
in life.
Black Mirror or something.
Yes, yeah, yeah. But we are getting closer to some of these terrible situations. And I guess what will happen as well, it will be about money. You cannot have ads if you could afford to pay.
Yes.
But if it's essential and you can't afford to pay, you're just going to be subjected to it. Yeah.
And is it truly equitable then? Would be
No.
the question.
Yeah. Really good point. So, we're getting close to the end of this conversation. I could really talk to you all day. You are a very, very inspiring person, and I'm really impressed by the difference you're making in the world. I hope sometimes you get some sleep and some downtime, but it doesn't sound like there'll be much time for that.
I get enough sleep. I make sure that I'm getting enough sleep.
Good. Good. Well, you know about the system, to keep it working. So, if you could design one governance structure for AI in reproductive medicine that doesn't yet exist, what would it be?
Um, I think for me, it would be a registry which is publicly accessible. So, like, even if I talk about like the smallest aspect of AI in our field right now, which is embryo selection, if I create a registry where everyone feeds in data, which is just an image of an embryo with the outcome that it carried, and if that data set is accessible to everyone in the world, I mean, we would be able to do so much with it because I mean, when these AI companies are so restricted with the amount of data that they collect, and if there is a registry which is giving it to them, we would truly have a system which is represented globally, which is probably which would work on all population data sets, and it's something that's easy to do. It's not the clinic just has to upload an image with an outcome. That's it. Nothing more is required. Obviously, the consent of the patient is required, but nothing more than that is required. And I wonder why it's not being done. So
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I think that people who have tried hard to have a baby, I think they would want to advance this so other people don't go through the pain and the difficulty that they have. So I think this is one thing that patients probably would be quite happy to support the field of
well,
medicine.
there are so many variables when it comes to embryo selection, and we have to factor in for all of these variables. And this can only happen if we have data from everywhere. Um, so that's what I would do.
Fantastic, fantastic. And what do you think would genuinely equitable AI infertility treatment look like in 10 years' time?
I think like when we look at equitable access, especially for our country, I think of a patient who's sitting maybe in a tier 3 city. with access to teleconferencing, where even if a doctor is not available, an AI system is jotting down all of the points for that patient, generating a history, generating the actionable steps for that patient, for who to visit, when to visit, scheduling an appointment. um, Access to diagnostics is very important, and this is where AI is really changing the game, because we have automated semen analyzers which are generating reports and telling patients what is wrong with them, uh, which makes them aware of like a possibly rectifiable situation early on, which can actually help them conceive naturally as well. And then even looking at blood test reports, and then again, if they have explainable, like blood test reports for them, where along with the report they also see what different possibilities that they have for that particular test, uh, it can really help them a lot. I think this is some one place where our population really struggles with a lot, um, because they will not even get their blood reports done, and even if they get it done, they're showing to a GP in a small city who wouldn't really know what AMH levels would mean for fertility, because I mean they are not prioritizing fertility as of now. So I think that's one space that I see changing very soon. And then when I look at smaller cities with access to all of these AI tools that I mentioned, like AI for stimulation protocols, ultrasound, embryo selection, etc., I think just offering standardized practice to a patient anywhere in the country will become possible. And that's for the best for the patient.
Ah, fantastic. Well, it sounds like a beautiful future of accessibility, people having access no matter who you are. And as a result, yeah, people being happier. As you said, there's stigma, there's accessibility issues in different parts of the country. And yeah, and I think if you're able to solve that for people, then yeah, it will be a wonderful place. And I think globally, we're finding there are less and less children being born. So we do need to we need to solve this challenge. And I know you'll be at the forefront of it. And I
Hope
thank
so.
you. Thank you
I
so
hope
much.
so.
Thanks for your time for today.
Thank you, Tony. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm so pleased I was able to meet you personally while I was in India as well. So this makes it an extra special interview. Thank
So
you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to AI for Equity. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay curious, stay bold, and keep using AI to build a fairer future.